Vitaly, listen, I know I should have been gone by now. Usually I'm way gone, but hey, just this it's just bugging me. It's just bugging me. So ironing shirts, I get it. I get it. You're looking slick.
Well,
I can see you iron them. Well, maybe not yourself. Maybe someone else does it. But you say you love doing it. I can understand ironing shirts as well. But here's the thing that's really getting under my skin: socks. Why on earth would you iron socks? I'll have to ask: does anybody here iron their socks?
not a single person.
Not
well,
one.
It will change today.
Not one. Right.
It will
Come on,
change today.
give us the.
But I mean, like,
why socks?
think about all the wrinkles. It's just so uncomfortable. Just so weird, isn't it? It's like how it's like so strange.
I'll tell you
and
what,
on the other hand, it's like ironing is just an incredible way of meditation. You can
listen,
learn
the ironing,
things.
the iron. I can that strategy, the way you
Yes,
iron.
exactly.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, if you run out of shirts,
That's
to
right.
iron,
And you
then
say
you
it's
kinda go to
weird.
socks.
You say it's weird having the crinkles. I'm just saying it's weird ironing socks.
I think you will
Bye-bye.
think otherwise once you're back. Well, welcome everyone. What a pleasure it is to be here in a circle thing. I don't even know where to look. How are we feeling, everyone? Yes? All right, that makes me happy. As I was introduced, I'm here to crush your dreams, but not really, because I kind of come in peace, but I come in peace with something that really bothered me on the web. And initially, I wanted it to be a very boring session, like really complex enterprise software. Anybody working in complex enterprise software? Anybody? Yes, so you deserve some chocolate, don't you think? So I brought some chocolate in case somebody really wants one. I've been training my throwing skills. The further you sit, the better. I am going to throw, so you better duck, right? And off we go. Oh, okay, but I don't see anything here. Okay, so I'm going to try my best. Close enough, all right. Don't steal somebody else's chocolate. That's not fair. All right, here we go. Sorry. Okay, I'll try my best next time, but we probably should start at this point. Yeah. So if you need a chocolate, just shout. All right, already. That was pretty good, huh? All right. So what I want to talk to you about today is something that really bothers me, right? And I really want to start with a personal story. Does anybody remember this? There should be audio coming in. Just a moment. No. You didn't see this. Let's pretend it never happened. Audio plug right here. All right, let's do this. Does anybody remember this? Yes, anybody? Yes, well, excellent. When I was growing up, this was a thing, right? I would be spending days and nights and then days and then nights just to try to finish it, and I never did, until I had to watch a YouTube tutorial to find out how it works. It was an incredible game. And for me, when I was growing up, this was really keeping me motivated all the time, right? And so as I was growing up, I got fascinated by many other things as well. One of them was this little website. Anybody remember this? Please raise your hands if you do. And we can also bump up the music a little bit, so it will be more dramatic. This website is 25 years old. I don't know how old some of you are, maybe not even 25. This was designed in 1998. This was live in 1998. This was before Flash even existed. This is why I love the web so much. Once I came to this very website in 1998, my life really changed forever. I was so excited because I wanted to do this. Flash animations and all kind of stuff going on, right? This was so incredibly exciting. And eventually, we got that. Because this was what we were doing on the web back in the day. This is a video recording from 2011, I think. Anybody remembers what this is or could be? You might be a little bit too young, I'm afraid. This is video text meets web design, meets HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. You can click on links, of course, or you can just type in the numbers. And we've come so far. Just think about how far we've come. Like, this is my best, my favorite website ever. This is a puppet theater website from Poland. I love everything. I love the cookie pop-up. I love the carousel. I love everything that we're about to kind of hate on the web these days, right? Just absolutely beautiful and amazing. So we've come really, really fast. So how come? Is that our regular day-to-day job and our regular day-to-day experience on the web feels like this? Like, password requirements, where is it going to stop? And sometimes it's like a puzzle. So what am I supposed to do here? So I'm going to just guess what password would work, and then my password manager is apparently not good enough, right? And then this happened. This is probably the weirdest thing I've ever seen in my life. Whenever you try to sign up for a newsletter, you add a newsletter sign up to your shopping cart, then with it you check out, then you confirm that, because you're going to get an email, you confirm that link by clicking on it, then you get a confirmation on your email address which you can click then to go to the newsletter sign up form, and then from there proceed to sign up. Oh, luckily it's free, so that's great. But how horrible is that? And then we end up with these beauties. Anybody excited about this? Can I feel your pain? Well, we don't see them that much, do we? No. They have disguised in a slightly different way because we get this. Right? Incredible, beautiful thing. And I don't know if it's just me, but very often I would be just so worried. This little dot here, is it still the rectangle? Should I click it or not? Right? And then sometimes you get these forms like this. Well, what is the date of your birth? Well, I don't know about you, but I have a feeling that I kind of know what my date of birth is. But instead of typing it, of course, I'm going to go and open the calendar widget and explore decades, going all the way back, just to remind myself how old I am. Because, sometimes I just don't remember. Was it a Saturday when I was born, on Friday? Or I should really look it up in the calendar because I really need to, right? And then we keep going, right? And it actually took me 53 seconds to fill in the day of my birth. That's probably not right. And then we get here, to this incredible option, right? Date and time of departure. Well, I don't know about you, but I have a feeling that maybe just typing it separately would be just faster. Again, it might think, well, it's a nice metaphor of the clock, right? But I think it's not just quite right. It's just slower compared to regular input that we would do. So we ended up in this world. And I was very, very excited when we started in 1998, and not very excited these days, especially when I get to see this. Beautiful. What a beauty that is, right? And this is a norm on the web. You see a lot of examples like that, and this is not okay, right? So how can we talk about design, and how can we say that this is wrong? Because when I work in companies, and I'm working with large companies, large corporations, nobody trusts me as a designer. Nobody trusts me. So if I walk in, like right now I'm working with the European Parliament, for example, it's a big organization, like massive changes are really hard to do, right? So I have to prove that my design is working. And this is actually quite a common thing. And if you look at the screen now, right, so how can I argue that this is a bad design, right? How can I be really strategic about this? In the same way, I could say, well, it's a bit slow, or you need to scroll a lot, right? But I have to be really, really careful about this. So this is another option. How about this? Do I understand how this works? Self-explanatory, I would say, right? So this is a date constructor. We construct 1956, September 27, right? And of course, most of you would say, well, this is just ridiculous. I don't want to see it on my boarding pass check-ins interfaces, right? That would be just weird. But this was designed specifically for the public library, where people were really sped up or kind of really boosted the speed in registering books. That's incredible design, because again, design is not here to be, liked or anything. It doesn't matter. It's here to solve a problem. So what I started doing is really creating this kind of design KPIs, which is something that we don't see that much, to be honest. And there are plenty of things here. How often do people make mistakes? How quickly they recover from those mistakes? How accurate is the data that people are submitting? What about sales and marketing costs that we have here? What about the number of service desk inquiries? And my design work has to, before and after, my design work has to really make a point that my design has improved these indicators. To the point, actually, and I don't know about you, that we're now really considering environmental impact. Because every single page has a cost. Every single page that lives on the server that will be rendered, it has a cost. So we need to reduce that as well. So this is really a massive part of what I'm doing these days. How can we apply it, though? Well, let's talk about our good old friends. Let's talk about carousels for a moment. Anybody loves carousels? Not many people. Well, I'll make you fall in love with carousels because they're beautiful. Look at them. Like, what did they do to you? It's a beautiful little carousel with a carousel in the background. Fantastic. And of course, if you look at the carousels, like this, maybe, what you'll find out, well, this is the pattern that we kind of keep using. We have the dots, we have the arrows, nothing groundbreaking. Everybody is just taking this for granted. And I would argue we need to question every single design decision to prove that it's working better. Because once we look at the data, it tells us that nobody clicks on the carousel, right? Except from people who see the first slice, the others are just not even noticed. So no wonder that it was then replaced with something else. However, it doesn't mean that it's not going to work. Because if you go to Turkish websites, and this is a hobby of mine, and I highly encourage you to go, just pick a country, and just go to insurance websites, transport companies, postal services. This is great fun on Saturday night. It really is, right? And they don't have dots. Why would they use dots? They use numbers instead, because you can refer to a number and send it to a friend, right? Now, I mean, they do use dots. It's just a lot of carousel slides that they get on mobile, right? But everywhere you go, it's like the same agency was designed all these websites. Just so strange, but it is not the case. And in fact, there are no dots anywhere in Turkey. That's very surprising. This is probably the best example ever, because you get a horizontal example of a carousel, a vertical one with the thumbnails and the content slider, all in one single screen. Incredible. And then it gets really messy. So this is an interesting example of that. How would you actually navigate through this carousel? It looks like a carousel, right, on the left. Does it? So please raise your hand if you would just click on this black dot over here. Anybody? Okay, a good number. All right, excellent. Who would try to click on, somewhere on this line, on this vertical line? Okay, some people here as well. Who would try to click on the numbers on the top and on the bottom? Okay, also a few people. This is not how it works at all. Because to navigate the carousel, you're all wrong. Me too, by the way. Well, you don't click, you swipe. Oh, it doesn't play for some reason. Hold on, that's just disappointing. I really try to measure the moment. Doesn't play? Doesn't play? It does? Maybe it does, I don't know. Hold on, let's see if I can just speed up. Sorry about that. No, it does play, just very slowly. But as you will see in a moment, please keep going. Yes, here we go. Always so slow, that pointer. You can click as much as you like. It doesn't do what you actually want it to do. So in fact, if you want to navigate the carousel, of course, you would be swiping, right? From left to right. A bit unexpected, maybe, right? But this is where you create this kind of really massive frustration where you have this no matching between what is supposed to happen and the indicator of how it's supposed to happen. And it's all over the place. It's not like, just one single website. Here's another one from Amsterdam, right? Kind of the same story, scroll for more. How are you supposed to scroll? Well, actually, you're supposed to scroll vertically, although the scrolling actually happens horizontally. This is always going to be a problem, right? This is where frustrations are usually coming from, where design KPIs are going to be slowed down. Now, when it comes to carousels, usually they don't get really bad performance. So if you look into e-commerce, for example, or hotel booking websites, things like that, then the distribution of attention for each slices looks different. Surely, if you have, let's say, 20 slices, the last one are going to get less attention. But the first one are going to get quite a lot of attention. The question is only how to design it better. Because one thing I would really encourage you to do is to remove the dots altogether. Maybe this. This is also an indicator that there is enough slices to go through, but it's just a horizontal line. That might be even enough. It might perform better than these dots because people really try to click on them. Or we can make it a bit more contextual. For example, adding labels right here. Now, this is going to perform much better, and the click-through rate is going to increase because it doesn't really feel like a carousel. It's more like tabs, right? If you do have a video or something auto-playing, when people encounter this, they will be scrolling past through it. If you want to avoid that, at least include the pause button. And it can go for everything, for example, for videos. This is one from Creative Denmark, where they also have a carousel. It's kind of a video carousel. And as you hover over some of the items, kind of get presented with these options as hover previews. Looks pretty cool. And then they fade away when they are not needed. How would it work on mobile? Maybe you could tilt it a little bit. Maybe not like 90 degrees, but maybe 45 degrees. This could work fairly well. And it kind of works the same way. And you could even have a slider for the slider, potentially. Or replace these dots with thumbnails. Or replace these dots with icons. But you know what really bothers me at night and why I cannot sleep? If you have arrows in your carousels, where should they go? I mean, where should they live? So where do we put the arrows? Should they live under those slices? Should they live in the center of it? Or should they live on the top? Anybody has this really profound thoughts when they kind of fall asleep about this? Anybody? No, it's just me. That makes me very, very sad, but that's okay, right? So where should it go? Who would say, oh, all right, this is it. The left one is the best one? Anybody? Let's have a vote. Okay, a few people. Who would say in the middle? Okay, more people. Interesting. Who would say all the way on the top? Okay, a few people. Who doesn't care anymore? Right? Anybody doesn't like to raise hands as a principal? Oh, excellent. Even more people. That's fantastic. Well, I decided to study it. And what happened was really, really fascinating. So whenever you put the icons or these arrows in the middle, right, one thing that happens is that people misstep. They accidentally click not on an arrow, but on the product, and they land somewhere else. So in the middle is actually performing worse. So if you have it right now, I highly encourage you to challenge your design team or yourself. Where else could it be? If you put it at the bottom, it performs better. Why does it perform better? Well, because whenever you use a mobile phone, right, if you had these arrows on the top, right, you would need to cover the content with your fingers in order to access these controls. But if you do not and you put the icons at the bottom, this just doesn't happen, right? So in fact, the best case is indeed to have this icon at the bottom, but not only that. I would highly encourage you to also, additionally to that, group these icons. So right now, they're all kind of, except on the left, they're in the middle, they're kind of distributed, right? If you group them, for example, like this, it's going to perform much better. Why? Because people usually want to go both backwards and forwards quickly. So if you allow them to do that, then you actually end up with people making fewer mistakes. That's what we ultimately want. So on desktop, we would do this, big buttons, easy to click or easy to tap, and you're navigating through them very easily. But then on mobile, it will look a little bit different. Again, just mostly because you actually want to avoid people making mistakes. So what we would do then on mobile is putting these icons at the bottom, grouped, right? Not all the way on the left and on the right edge. This seems to be performing much better than anything else. So if I had to pick a reference example, this is going to be mine, right? Now, of course, these are just carousels. We have more wonderful things on the web, which are also frustrating. That's infinite scroll. Do I have any friends of infinite scroll? Anybody? Yes, that's okay. It's a safe space. That's okay, yes. Well, anybody doesn't like infinite scroll? Yeah, a few people. Right? Well, anybody really likes infinite scroll, like really, really passionate about infinite scroll? A few. Well, if you like it, what's not to like? It's incredible. It has all the usability issues you can think of. It's overwhelming, it's difficult to manage, has very high abandonment rate, usually. For people, it's often very difficult to spot the new segments and the old segments. The URL is always broken, you can't copy-paste it, and then you can't bookmark a location, return to it later. You cannot reach the footer, but who needs footer anyway, right? You break the scroll bar, it always doesn't keep the promise, so as you keep scrolling, it just jumps all the time. You have all kind of accessibility issues, performance issues. It's great. It's great in so many ways. Ironically, I was hired with a task to improve an infinite scroll. I was like, what? This is never going to work. Well, I was hired to improve it, and I thought, okay, well, sure, we can improve it. We just need to fix all these issues. That's not a problem. We can do that. So what do we do then? Well, if you think about it, and you think about infinite scroll, like, it could be something like this, right? You keep scrolling, and you keep scrolling, and hopefully you keep scrolling and scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, and you never hit the footer, and you keep scrolling. And look at this scroll bar. Every time it jumps, my heart stops, right? How does it? It's not okay. This is not what I was promised. I was promised that it's going to be the end, and then off it goes, and eventually, hopefully, it gets to the load more button. So if we want to improve it, we just need to fix all these issues previously mentioned. So what can we do? Well, one thing we can do is to allow people to maybe, have more control about how we're loading things. Like, for example, this was an example that we got here in the beginning. Initially, we could improve it a little bit by saying, hey, if you want to continue browsing here later, here we go, just leave your email address. Marketing people love it. Leave your email address, and we'll send you a link to continue later. Because very often people start on mobile, they continue then on desktop, and it actually works really, really well. Or if you want to be a bit nicer, continue here later. Show these items on a separate page could be another feature you could add. So as you start scrolling, kind of give people control to feel like they're going through pages, right? And this seems to be working much, much better. In fact, what you could do then, next time somebody comes to the page, you can ask them if they want to continue from where they started or where they left off last time or not. But we still have another issue, right? Which is, of course, the footer. We still can never reach the footer. Well, we can, because if you go to food delivery services websites from all over the world, which I do because it's fun, you will end up on Damakun, which is a Malaysian food delivery service, and they have a sticky footer. So you can always hit the footer. That's no problem. Kind of another problem solved. And you can do more than that. Because what if you combine pagination, load more button, and infinite scroll in one? Anybody excited about this like me? I can feel this emotion in the audience right here. This is great. So once you start moving and you kind of keep scrolling, you kind of end up to this point where you actually mimic the pagination. So if you look at the top in the URL, the pagination changes. So you can jump to page 3, you can jump to page 4, and so on, right? And if you just keep scrolling, you can also hit the footer, you can also kind of get back to the top. It's great, it works really well. And if you want to get to a particular page, let's say page 7, you can do that as well with infinite scroll too. But of course you might wonder, why would I want to go to page 7? Like it's like I want to go to page 14 because it's fun. I like pages 14. That usually doesn't happen, right? So we can actually make this better too. For example, like this. Imagine you have infinite scroll. You have a list, and that list is usually going to be sorted by something. So what if we added some labels on the right to indicate people what they're going to jump to? Because if you're sorting, let's say, by price for your t-shirts, and you just want to get a particular price, well, here you go. This is going to be much faster. You can also do the same thing for pagination. Right? Kind of works in the same way. This was on IKEA website in 2012, and then it was removed in 2012, but I never forget. I'm like an elephant, I never forget, right? And you can make it even funnier. Or if you have, let's say, a long read or so, you can say, why don't we actually allow people to do that within a page? So as you keep going, you have this mini-map on the right, and you can actually allow people to bookmark a location that they can return to later. So if they find some interesting points in there, here we go, you can always return back to a particular location. That seems to be working actually fairly well as well. Time for chocolate, I would say. Anybody? All right, here we go. Now we have more active people. Well, it's a very strong group here. Okay, it's like I feel like ducks sometimes. Okay, here we go. Anybody else? Okay, here we go. Oh, that was pretty good. So I have 3 more. Like limited edition. I don't see anything, but let's try. I mean, if you don't want the chocolate, you better find defense somewhere. All right. Oh, you just stole it from the people nearby. Oh. Okay, so maybe more later to that. So we still have 8 minutes left, right? Okay. Anybody cares about drop-downs and mega hover menus? Anybody? 4 people here. Have anybody here who is excited about mega drop-downs? 7.5. Okay. Okay. Well, let's see how we can make this more exciting. Because when you think about complex menus, what's not to love, right? This is fantastic. So every time you go and you try to find your way through this tunnel, hover tunnel, this is always so scary. And you just need to be very, very careful. Otherwise, you're just going to be starting all over again. So if you open a menu and off you go, you kind of go. Can you feel the pain? Anybody was in this situation before? Yes, isn't it fun? No, it's not fun. But then we say, oh, we can still make it work. That's not the problem. We just have delays. Oh, sure, let's have delays. So let's have a little bit of delay, right? And then you get this situation again. The same story all over, just differently. Because once you introduce a delay, for some people it will be just right. For some people it's just not going to be good enough, either too short or too lengthy, cannot make it work really, really well. Right? And then we can say, hold on, we can do something else, right? Let's say this triangle pattern. Anybody using it? Probably common that you might be implementing this, where as long as somebody is staying within this triangle, we keep showing them this content panel, right? Well, yeah, we can do that, but it kind of assumes a particular mode of how you're navigating a page, which is not necessarily going to be the case. And I've seen people going to extremes to make it work. Like, for example, creating this SVG path just to make sure that this menu is working, right? Independent of where you are, like what buttons, exactly where you click the buttons. And also it has to be responsive, right? Because if you have, let's say, a menu showing up on the left and on the right, You need to make sure that it actually works really well. That's not easy to implement. It kind of requires quite a bit of effort, right? And then you also end up with this beautiful thing. Can you feel the pain, this frustration? It kind of really piles up at this point. Well, this is not okay. Whenever you have any kind of interactive element above the menu, this is going to be pain on earth. We don't want that. That's really, really frustrating. So we really have to fix it. So what do we do then to fix it? For example, on mobile, we don't have hover anyway, right? We could, of course, on desktop just say, let's have click menu and tap menu and call it a day, and that works. But then what we tend to do on mobile is this. Have the menu opening up, and then whenever you click on one of the items, we have this sliding in from right to left. Anybody has it? That's okay, it's a safe space. Anybody? Please remove it. Please remove it if you can. This is the worst and the slowest mode of interaction, because every time you need to go somewhere, you need to go back in order to go forward, right? Of course, you can improve it a little bit, like let's do on Decathlon, for example. You go in, right, and then you kind of get a little bit a different highlight. You see where you are, you see the subsections. That's actually better, right? But it's still the slowest mode of interaction. And sometimes you also can see things like this, right, where you have this slide in from right to left, and then slide in from right to left, but eventually when you hit the end of that path, it kind of changes to an accordion. So what would we do instead? Well, we have a couple of options. I'm really glad that you asked, because what we can do, for example, is something as simple as this. Just simple accordions. There is no harm in accordions. It depends, of course, on how many items you have in the menu, right? But here we go. You can actually show up to 3 levels of navigation right here, so people never have to go back in order to go forward. This tends to be 20% faster in terms of time compared to the slide-in menus. So I highly encourage you to try it out. But you can also do much more. One interesting thing that you can really explore is this. Instead of mega hover menus, you might have that menu somewhere if you need to, and you probably will have search. But here you're kind of constructing your own query right here. So as you kind of navigate through the site, right, let me see if we can actually go in there immediately. Just a moment. Right, you kind of construct your own queries as you go. So whatever it is that you want, you basically choose it, and then you're being driven specifically to the page that you need. It's more like an information system, really. The same here in the city of Düsseldorf. You just, what do you want to do here? I want to do X. Where would you like to do it? Here. All right, here we go. This performs much faster, much better than any kind of navigation or search. The same goes also for big e-commerce sites, for example, right? If you think about navigation and search, you also need to kind of complement it with an option like this. So what would you like to buy today? A refrigerator or washing machine? A washing machine. Okay, what kind? What size? Large size, right? And then you define the price. Off you go. 12 seconds. 12 seconds is the time to relevance. You cannot get to that with filters and navigation and search that you would need to use. This is extremely fast. And as you know, of course, if it's faster, people are going to use it more. That's something that we actually need to keep in mind, right? That's pretty neat. There's also another thing you could do, which is actually quite neat. It worked really, really well. Usually when you think about this kind of navigation, we would think about, you kind of show this kind of menu in some way, in one or the other. But you can also do this. I don't see this that much anywhere on the web, but I would highly encourage you to test it, because this is going to really improve the speed of navigation to people who know where they want to go. Or even if they don't know where they want to go, they can still kind of understand what you have to offer very, very quickly. And you find a couple of different examples of this in action as well. So this is one from one of the websites in the US. Right, here's one also from Cancer.dk in Denmark. And here's one on PlayStation, where they kind of use this curtain pattern, where you highlight with the icons what is left, and then you can navigate very quickly between 2 multiple levels at the same time. So you don't need to have this slide in. This is probably the worst. And then, of course, this happens. When I saw this for the first time, I couldn't sleep entire night. Why on earth would you do this? What did breadcrumbs do to you that you flip them all the way wrong? That doesn't make sense. And then I go to Netherlands, and I love Dutch transport companies' websites. That's fun. So you find this all over the place. Like, what is going on in this world? And then sometimes you go to German banks, and they have disabled breadcrumbs. Why would you disable that breadcrumb? What did it do to you? I just don't get that. It's so sad. Why would you disable a breadcrumb? And sometimes you also find it in the footer and not in the header. That's really, really fascinating. I'm not quite sure why. And sometimes it's just a little bit weird. Like, I have this breadcrumbs, but I'm not quite sure what I'm looking at, for example. And sometimes also it just gets a little bit messy. It's very confusing. It's not quite clear where am I? What is this exactly? And what is that? It's a lot of back buttons here. I'm not quite sure what it is. So 2 options you can do. One of them is to have accordions for your breadcrumbs. So you can indicate that you can actually tap on them and actually expand and show the entire path. And then I discovered this, and it changed my life forever. What if you just remove navigation? What if you have breadcrumbs / drop-downs as the main navigation menu? And when I went to ADAC, I was like, what? I did sleep that night, but it was like so impressive. Like, anybody feels this? Wow. This is really interesting. So why don't we do this more? And then you start looking around, and it's actually all over the place. You find it in many different places, and it's like just 2 minutes to wrap up, right? So you kind of find it all over. And then I thought, why stop there? So if you go to the Federal Statistical Office of Federal Administration in Zurich, Switzerland, which is a fantastic website for Friday night, I recommend you as well. Well, you will find breadcrumbs all over. It's like, wow. Why do you need your main navigation? Why do you need your mega hover menu? You don't need it, right? In fact, you can actually put it right here. That's great. In fact, for the European Parliament, that's exactly what we're testing right now. It seems to be performing fairly well. That's incredible, right? So if you have breadcrumbs, maybe this would work. And then finally, the last one I want to show is frozen filters, right? Because very often what we end up is this horrible, 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 horrible experience that looks like this, right? When you start navigating, and then you select some of the filters, and you click through the filters, and look what happens. Isn't it just sad? It's like, anybody feels this sadness? It's like, why would you do that to filters? Why would you freeze the filters? What did they do to you? That doesn't make sense. Just let me be as a human being. Let me click my filters. I like my filters. And then once you selected the filters, they don't even show up on the top. Right? So what did I click? What is happening? Hasn't been applied? What is going on here? You have no idea. And then there is this. So at this point, I have to stop for just a moment and give you a really bad joke, right? Because it kind of relates to this. Ready? It's going to have a punchline, but it's a really bad joke. Yeah, nobody really cares anymore. That's okay. So how would you call a singing computer? Adele. Okay, that worked. That makes me happy, right? Oh, that's nice. So what do we have here? Just look. Just look. You click, and whenever you click, and whenever you have a checkbox, it's a promise. It's a promise that the interface gives you that it has registered the input, and it promises that you want to keep as a designer, as a developer, but it isn't kept. And then whenever you just keep going, it's like, what? It's just only one checkbox that has been registered. So what do we do to fix it? Well, there is a very simple way of fixing it. There are 2 really great examples of how you can make it work. First of all, we want to decouple. We want to decouple the filters from search results. Just let people click. Just let people choose the filters and register the filters. So the updates are appearing on the right, and click as much as you like. As much as you like, it doesn't matter. That's all fine, because we shouldn't be assuming that people are just going to select one filter at a time. And if you feel like, okay, sidebar is not your preference, well, there is also this great example from Switzerland again, which is Galaxus, where you have these filters on the top. You don't necessarily need auto-apply button, or auto-apply for your filters. Maybe you have a manual apply button. That might be working actually better. So this experience is working really, really well. All right, so I would highly encourage you to actually try this out as well. All right, so with this in mind, just to wrap up, because I think that I'm getting looks at this point, it's actually quite interesting that we can do so much on the web, right? If you think about all the wonderful things we can do, and this is, just an example, this is things that we've been knowing for years. People want just simple things. When things are fast and accessible and large and legible, and when you have input boxes that look like input boxes, and I'm not talking about material design at all, of course, and then you want focus states and active states, helpful error messages, just simple things. And in fact, the funniest one is this one, because there are 3 things that people are afraid of. First is snakes, second is spiders, And third is the back button. Because with the back button, you are very likely to lose a lot of data. So this is actually quite straightforward. We can make it work. And in fact, I've been working on this video course. So if you're interested in something like this, you can also get there and find like 8 or so hours of video covering all of that and more, right? And with this, we can create incredible things. Like, for example, this little website. If you hate pop-ups, there is no reason to hate pop-ups. This is the best pop-up ever invented. I wish this pop-up was everywhere, on every single website. It's so difficult to close, and it's great. It's absolutely amazing, right? And then you go to maybe to places like this, and you have to type in your year of birth and stuff like that. Why don't you make it a bit more, I don't know, challenging for people? Are you 21? If you say yes, well, you enter the site. That's done. But if you choose to say no, let's have a conversation, shall we? It's really easy to do. Like, it doesn't require a lot of effort. It's just a couple of pop-ups, so even pop-ups can be fun. Right? It just keeps going and going and going, and eventually you don't want to click yes anymore, right? So just keep going, and eventually, of course, you end up to the point where there is no way for you to say yes. So that's it. You're going to be stuck, and then, of course, as you do proceed, you can discover these little nuggets, right? Which is really fantastic. And you get then, of course, a wonderful look, right? Or even this, like, think about these things. Like, select drop-down. Nobody likes a good drop-down. But, you know, why stop at Mr., Miss, Mrs., and it's just boring. Let's go all the way. Who would you like to be today? Just choose your adventure. Choose your journey, right? Well, I always wanted to become like some, I don't know, squadron leader. That seems about right. And it's a long list. It's like 56 items on that list. Just go ahead and explore, right? Oh, here's another one. Just, you know, we can just play a little bit on the web. There's nothing, no harm in playing. Just let people kind of at least develop some sort of connection with the site. It's not necessarily about making people not think, right? But maybe also making people think every now and again. And I really love how appreciative and respectful this character is, right? It will pick, but very carefully, right? And sometimes we can just make people wait. That's okay. Just let people wait for a moment. And this is my favorite one and the last one as well. If you think that even a toggle is the most boring thing ever, you can make a toggle great. Just make people click it multiple times. Right? There's nothing wrong. So if somebody wants to subscribe to your newsletter, make them work for it a little bit. There is no harm in that. And that character has an attitude, right? So you would need to click 27 times to subscribe to somebody's newsletter, right? So this is going to be quite an effort. So with this in mind, I hope that there was some insight that you will find useful as well. There is cats because we like cats, and meow, and thank you so much for being smashing and coming here. If you need more chocolate, I got more. So off we go.
Not for me. Go on, chuck them out. Chuck them out.
Yeah, all right.
Go for it.
All right, anybody?
Look, they're loving it. Look, go for it. Yeah.
That was easy.
Beautiful.
And
in your mouth, open wide.
Anybody else? Okay.
Look, open your mouth. There it goes in.
All right. All right, I have just 4 more.
4 more.
Just very limited edition.
Let's this side.
You have to choose. You have to choose
that man
now.
there. Open your mouth. They are wide.
Right. Oh, I don't see anything. Okay, I'm going to throw. Whatever happens, happens. Okay, that was easy. And we have insurance here?
No.
Oh, no. Excellent. Okay, maybe here.
1 more.
All the way in the back.
There we are. Ladies and gentlemen, hands together once again for Vitaly Friedman.
Thank you, everyone.
There we have it. So, an intriguing session there. And, you know, on a personal note, I've learned so much about you personally. All the things there are so many things that keep you up at night, aren't there? Dots, arrows, breadcrumbs, you name it. It's keeping you up. But hey, if you do get up, a little bit of ironing. Hey,
sure. If you have a table, do you have a table?
Yes.
We do.
Not right here.
Oh, not here.
Not right here. If I had
we should have like a little ironing session, maybe.
Absolutely.
Next time. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you so much for having me.